before you head out on a major road trip, you kick the tires, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You check the pressure, make sure everything looks good.
Right, because you wouldn't just cross your fingers and hope for the best at 70 miles an hour on the highway.
No, definitely not.
Mm.
It's about establishing a baseline. You have to test the tool before you actually rely on it.
And welcome to today's deep dive, because we're actually applying that exact tire kick mentality to something that's probably sitting on your kitchen counter right now.
Yeah, the humble paper towel.
Exactly. We found this really fascinating video from the channel Webspoon Tricks and Hacks, and it's titled 18 Paper Towels Hacks You Must Know. And it just completely re-engineers how we use them.
It really does. It's quite eye-opening.
Right. So our mission today for you, the listener, isn't to just rattle off a list of internet life hacks. We are going to fundamentally rethink an everyday object that we all take completely for granted.
Yeah, because we're going to explore how a simple sheet of paper acts as a microclimate regulator, a steam cooker, and even a heavy-duty degreaser, which requires looking way past its intended design.
Yeah. Right, because we tend to view paper towels purely as a reactive safety net, like you spill some coffee, you wipe it up, and you throw it away.
Exactly. But the source material completely flips that premise. It repositions the paper towel as a proactive, highly engineered instrument.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before the video even gets to the actual applications, it establishes what it calls the squeeze test.
Ah, yes, the tire kick.
The tire kick, right. So to know if you have a quality roll of paper towels, you just give the physical roll a squeeze.
Just a firm grip.
Yeah. If it stays firm and pushes back against your hand, you're good to go. It means it'll absorb better, it won't tear easily, and it'll actually save you cleanup time.
Right.
But if it just collapses inward under the pressure of your grip, it won't handle real kitchen work.
And that squeeze test isn't just about feeling the thickness. It's actually revealing the underlying manufacturing chemistry of the paper.
Wait, really? Chemistry?
Oh, yeah. There is a massive physical difference between a paper towel and standard toilet paper.
Well, yeah, I'd hope so.
Right. Because toilet paper is explicitly engineered to disintegrate. Manufacturers use very short cellulose fibers and minimal binding agents. That way, the second it hits water, it breaks apart. It doesn't ruin your plumbing.
Which is exactly why you never try to clean a mirror with toilet paper. It just leaves that horrible white dust everywhere.
Yes. Exactly the opposite of what we want in the kitchen.
Right.
High-quality paper towels are densely packed with long softwood fibers. And more importantly, they're treated with special wet-strength resins.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they are literally engineered not to fall apart when saturated. That structural density, that chemical resistance to breaking down, is the foundational physics that unlocks the hidden utility we're about to explore.
Which brings us to the first major conceptual shift, right? Moisture management.
Yes. Since these things are designed to handle water without disintegrating, their most powerful application is actually totally invisible. They are masters of extending the shelf life of our food.
That's so clever.
It really is. The creator shows us a few ways to do this, like slipping a paper towel into a bag of cucumbers. Or there was a subscriber in the comments who mentioned placing a few layers at the bottom of a cheese container, and it extends the life dramatically.
What's fascinating here is that we have to look at the science of decay to understand why this is so effective.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, excess moisture is the absolute worst enemy of fresh produce and dairy in your refrigerator. When you put vegetables or a block of cheddar in a sealed plastic container, the food continues to naturally respire.
It's still breathing, essentially.
Exactly. It releases water vapor, and that vapor eventually hits the cold plastic walls, condenses into liquid water, and drips right back down onto the food. Ugh. And that surface water becomes a breeding ground for bacteria and mold. It literally breaks down the cellular structure of the cucumber, turning it into that, that slimy, translucent mush at the bottom of the crisper drawer.
We've all seen it. But if you just leave the container open to the air to prevent that condensation, well, the cold, constantly circulating air of the refrigerator pulls way too much moisture out of the food. So your cucumbers dehydrate and shrivel, and your cheese turns hard and waxy.
But wait, I'm still stuck on the towel being inside the sealed container, though? If the paper towel is in there absorbing all that ambient condensation, doesn't it just become a soggy, wet blanket sitting right next to your food?
That's a good question.
Like, why wouldn't that cause rot even faster? Why does this actually work better than just leaving the container open?
I know it sounds counterintuitive until you factor in capillary action.
Capillary action, like with plants.
Exactly. Think of how a massive redwood tree gets water from its roots all the way up to its highest leaves, hundreds of feet in the air. It's not using a mechanical pump. It relies on capillary action, where the liquid climbs through microscopic tunnels in the plant tissue. And because of those dense, long cellulose fibers we talked about earlier, the paper towel does the exact same thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it pulls the liquid moisture away from the surface of the food and locks it deep inside its own structural matrix.
Ah, so it acts as a passive, sacrificial barrier.
Yes, the paper towel takes on the humidity so the food doesn't have to. The surface of your cheese stays perfectly dry to the touch, preventing mold, but the overall environment inside the sealed container remains properly humidified so nothing dries out.
That is wild. It's basically a disposable humidity control system for your groceries.
That much.
And that completely reframes the berry storage trick from the video. Like, the creator places a paper towel inside the plastic berry tray and then physically flips the tray upside down in the fridge.
Right, because you are combining capillary action with gravity. You're actively pulling the water down into the towel and away from the delicate fruit.
It makes so much sense now. But here's where it gets really interesting. We just saw how those dense fibers lock cold moisture away to save our food. What happens to those exact same fibers when we intentionally saturate them and introduce high heat?
Well, they stop being a sponge and become a highly efficient cooking vessel.
This part blew my mind because the source outlines a technique that I was highly skeptical of at first, honestly. It sounded like a recipe for a ruined microwave.
The potato trick.
Yes, the 3-minute potato. So you take a whole raw potato, rinse it to get the dirt off, wrap it entirely in a damp paper towel, and just throw it in the microwave for 3 minutes.
No boiling water, no waiting 20 minutes for an oven to preheat.
Right. And the video claims it cooks perfectly from the outside in, and they use the same principle for a 2-minute corn on the cob.
Which is a beautiful demonstration of thermodynamics, really.
How so?
Well, when you wrap a vegetable in a damp paper towel and microwave it, you aren't just heating the solid mass of the food. The microwave radiation excites the water molecules in the damp towel, and it rapidly converts that liquid water into a phase change.
It turns into steam.
Exactly. It turns into steam.
Wait, so the wet paper towel basically acts as a custom-fit, disposable pressure cooker?
That is the perfect way to visualize it. You are creating a micro steamer tightly bound to the exact geometric contours of the food.
Oh, wow.
If you just microwaved a dry potato on a plate, the microwaves would penetrate and aggressively heat the internal moisture of the potato itself. This often leaves the outside tough and leathery, while the inside turns to dry sand.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
Right, but with the damp towel wrapper, you are trapping a layer of superheated steam right against the skin.
Because steam carries significantly more thermal energy than dry air at the same temperature.
Precisely. The heat transfer from that trapped steam is incredibly efficient. It cooks the starches gently and evenly from the outside in.
That's amazing.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, from an energy standpoint, it's remarkably lean. You aren't wasting gas or electricity heating up a massive heavy pot of water on a stove. You are only heating the exact microscopic amount of water needed to steam that specific vegetable.
Plus, 0 pots to scrub afterward, which is a huge win for me.
Definitely.
And there's a fun little geometric bonus they pair with the hot corn. They take a stick of butter and cut it using the rim of a drinking glass.
Oh, I love that part.
Yeah. It scoops out this perfect little half-pipe shape of butter that fits flawlessly over the curvature of the cob. It's very satisfying to watch.
Very clever.
But moving past the steam cooking, the source also addresses using a dry paper towel in the microwave. Because we've all seen food explode and just paint the inside of the microwave with tomato sauce.
A nightmare to clean.
The hack is simply draping a dry paper towel over the bowl before reheating.
Which relies on the physical porosity of the paper web.
Okay, unpack that for me.
When food heats rapidly, expanding pockets of hot air and steam need to vent. If you seal a plastic lid over the bowl, the pressure builds until it pops off violently.
Right, the explosion.
Yeah. The paper towel allows that hot air to vent continuously through its microscopic holes. but the physical web of the long fibers catches the heavy, viscous droplets of sauce or grease trying to escape.
So it's handling high heat and pressurized steam. But what happens when we remove the heat and apply actual physical force? Because the source material then moves from cooking back to the prep process.
Yes, the mechanical applications.
Right, and it turns out that structural integrity we checked during our initial squeeze test isn't just about surviving water, it's about mechanical grip.
This is where we see the paper towel transition from a chemical or thermal tool into a purely mechanical one.
Let's look at the cutting board stabilizer. The video shows taking a small piece of paper towel, wetting it, wringing it out, and placing it flat on the counter under your cutting board.
And suddenly the board is locked to the counter. It's perfectly steady.
Yeah. Now, anytime you watch a professional cooking show, the chefs always say to use a damp kitchen cloth or an old rag under your cutting board. So why use a paper towel when professional chefs always say to use a cloth? Like, why wouldn't I just use a cloth instead of wasting a paper towel?
Well, according to the specific physics of it, the paper towel is actually better because the thickness of the material changes the physics of the cutting surface.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A standard kitchen cloth will absolutely grip the counter, but because it's woven terry cloth, it elevates the cutting board slightly. It creates a spongy, compressible layer.
Ah, I see.
When you are doing fine knife work and chopping down with force, that thickness can compress unevenly under the blade, creating a subtle but dangerous wobble.
Oh, because a wet paper towel is only maybe a millimeter thick.
Right. It's thinner than a cloth, so it grips the surface tightly without creating that slight wobble. It provides maximum static friction without adding any vertical padding.
That makes total sense.
The water creates a seal capillary adhesion between the smooth counter, the towel, and the hardboard. It locks the board flat and flush to the surface. It's a masterclass in friction, really. You get all the grip with none of the spongy trampoline effect.
That static friction isn't just for heavy wooden boards either. It solves one of the most annoying parts of chopping loose vegetables.
The green onions.
Yes. The video shows a huge, unruly bunch of green onions that are sliding all over the place. To fix it, you just rub a large bunch of green onions in a paper towel, wrap it tightly around the base of the bunch. It acts as a textured grip to hold them all perfectly together.
It's so simple.
The video notes you can use a rubber band too, but the paper towel absorbs any slippery plant juices while giving your hand traction on the knife.
And, think about the problems of liquid dynamics in the kitchen, too.
Yeah.
That same dense fibrous structure that creates friction also works as an industrial-grade sieve.
You mean the frying oil filtration? Frying oil is incredibly expensive, and the video points out that if it hasn't been burned, you can absolutely reuse it to stretch your grocery budget. The trick is straining it properly. The creator places a fine wire sieve over a glass jar, lines the sieve with a paper towel, and pours the used oil through it. Then labels it deep frying oil.
Which saves money and reduces waste. Because a standard wire sieve alone is functionally useless for oil maintenance.
Really? Useless.
Yeah, a metal sieve will catch the big breadcrumbs and the major pieces of batter, but the microscopic flour particles and tiny carbonized bits of food will slip right through that metal mesh.
And if you leave those microparticles in there, they'll burn immediately the next time you heat the oil.
Exactly. They are the primary catalyst for oxidation. Those tiny carbonized bits cause the fat molecules to break down, smoke prematurely, and taste rancid.
Yuck.
So, by forcing the thick, viscous oil to navigate through the dense, randomized maze of cellulose fibers in the paper towel, you are trapping debris at the micron level. The clean oil slowly drips through, entirely stripped of the impurities.
So, what does this all mean? We are prepping, we are filtering oil, we are steam cooking potatoes. Well, all this kitchen activity inevitably leads to a massive mess.
Always.
But instead of grabbing a traditional sponge, the paper towel steps in for the heavy lifting of cleanup. And this brings me to my absolute favorite trick in the entire video, the greasy pot hack.
The physics on this one are fantastic.
Let's say you just finished making a heavy meat sauce and your pot is coated in a thick, stubborn layer of animal fat. You don't want to use your kitchen sponge because once grease gets deep into a synthetic sponge, it never really comes out.
No, the sponge just smears grease on everything else for the next month.
Exactly. Instead, the video instructs you to tear off a single piece of paper towel and drop it directly into the greasy pot. You add 1 drop of dish soap and a little splash of water. Then you put the lid tightly on the pot and give the whole thing a vigorous shake for just a few seconds.
Such a great technique.
When you take the lid off, the grease is completely lifted off the metal. You just rinse it clean. To me, it looks exactly like a washing machine cycle, where that single paper towel is acting as the agitator.
That is a highly accurate comparison. It's a combination of chemistry and kinetic energy.
Okay, break that down for me.
So the dish soap is a surfactant, meaning its molecules operate like little bridges. One end attaches to water and the other end attaches to fat. But soap alone, sitting on grease, doesn't do much. It needs mechanical agitation to physically break up the fat layer so the soap can surround it.
Which is usually where the elbow grease and scrubbing comes in.
Exactly. By sealing the pot and shaking it violently, you are sending that wet, soapy paper towel flying around the interior. It repeatedly slaps against the metal walls. You are using the wet mass of the towel as a blunt force scrubber.
That's genius.
It provides the mechanical energy necessary to detach the grease, while the soap encapsulates the fat, so it can be easily rinsed away down the drain.
And when you're done, you just toss the towel in the trash. No ruined sponge harboring bacteria by the sink. And the video actually scales up this heavy-duty cleaning concept for the outdoor grill, too.
Oh, the grill hack.
Yeah. If you have grimy, polymerized grease baked onto your grill grates, you soak several paper towels in water, lay them flat across the cold grates, close the grill lid, and turn the heat on for just a few minutes.
Which creates a massive enclosed steam chamber.
Right. The heat from the burners instantly boils the water trapped in the towels. That steam loosens the baked-on dirt, and then the moist towels themselves act as an absorbent mat for the loosened grease. You turn the grill off, let it cool just enough to be safe, and wipe the entire mess away in one motion.
This raises an important question about how we view single-use items. We often hear criticism of them, but this highlights a logistical reality.
What do you mean?
Well, there are specific hygienic tasks, like wiping away heavy, oxidized grease or dealing with raw poultry juice, where the deliberate application of a disposable material is fundamentally safer and more efficient than trying to decontaminate a reusable cloth.
Oh, that makes total sense. That logistical angle applies to plumbing, too.
Yeah.
The creator shows us a brilliant defense mechanism for the kitchen sink using leftover tea leaves.
A very common plumbing hazard.
Yeah, dumping wet tea leaves down the drain is a fast track to a clog, so you just lay a couple of paper towels directly over the sink drain and pour the wet leaves and water directly onto the towels.
Like an industrial coffee filter.
Exactly. The liquid drains right through the porous paper into the pipes, preventing clogs, but the heavy, sludgy leaves are trapped on top. You gather up the corners of the towel into a little pouch and just toss the whole bundle in the trash.
You're using the porosity of the material to separate liquids from solids, protecting your household infrastructure. We are turning a simple absorbent sheet into an engineered tool for specific logistical problems.
Which leads right into the DIY soapy towels trick.
Oh, I loved this one.
Right. The creator lays out a few dry sheets on the counter, applies dish soap directly to them, spreads it around evenly, and hangs the towels up to dry.
Pre-soaping them.
Yeah. Once the soap is completely dry and set into the paper fibers, they fold them into neat little squares and store them in a Ziploc bag. Whenever they need to clean up a mess on the, say, a spill in the car or sticky hands at a picnic, they just pull out a square, add a splash of water, and instantly have a sudsy wipe.
It's a masterclass in efficient packing. You are dehydrating the cleaning agent. Water is heavy and bulky to transport. By storing the chemical surfactant dry within the fibers of the towel, you eliminate the weight, and then you rehydrate the system precisely at the point of use.
It's the ultimate road trip hack. And there are a couple other quick storage hacks too, like snipping the bottom bar of a plastic hanger to slide a roll on for an instant hanging dispenser.
Yep.
Or storing a roll inside a kitchen cabinet, pulling the end out, and closing the door for easy access. But as we reach the end of our deep dive, the final hack from the source material isn't about physics or chemistry at all. It's entirely psychological.
This is where it gets really interesting from a human behavior standpoint.
Yeah. The video addresses the ultimate budget hack for your household. If you want to immediately cut your paper towel usage by 50%, you just take a sharp serrated knife and physically saw the entire cardboard tube and roll of paper towels in half down the middle, creating 2 miniature rolls.
This is a fascinating application of behavioral economics.
Honestly, I thought it seemed a bit extreme at first. Like, why not just tear off smaller pieces?
Because human beings are fundamentally creatures of default settings. In behavioral psychology, there is a concept called the default effect. We consume what is presented to us as the standard unit.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
If you are served food on a massive dinner plate, you will naturally fill it and eat more, regardless of how hungry you actually are. If you were given a massive 12-inch sheet of paper towel to wipe up a single drop of spilled coffee, you will use the entire sheet without a second thought.
Because it takes mental effort to consciously tear a sheet in half every single time.
Precisely. By physically altering the roll with a knife, you are changing the default architecture of your kitchen. You are forcing your brain to accept a 6-inch sheet as the new standard unit of cleaning. You change your consumption behavior entirely passively.
Wow.
If you have a massive spill, you can always grab 2 small sheets. But for the 90% of daily tasks that only require a tiny wipe, you've removed the friction of having to decide to use less.
That's just brilliant. It's a perfect encapsulation of everything we've talked about today. We started this deep dive talking about kicking the tires and establishing a baseline. We took a mundane roll of paper towels, gave it the squeeze test, and uncovered an absolute powerhouse of hidden utility.
We really did cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, we journeyed from utilizing capillary action to build a microclimate for our expensive berries, to harnessing thermodynamics for rapid-fire potatoes, to exploiting micron filtration to save our frying oil.
Yeah.
We even used kinetic energy to scrub a greasy grill.
And for you listening, I think the real takeaway here goes far beyond just memorizing a few neat tricks for your next dinner party.
Oh, absolutely.
These hacks are actually practical, hands-on demonstrations of the physics operating all around us in the kitchen. When you truly understand how moisture behaves in a sealed environment, how steam transfers thermal energy, and how surfactants break down fats, you stop seeing a paper towel as just a reactive way to wipe up a mess.
Right.
You start seeing it as an engineered tool. You're manipulating physics to make your daily logistics significantly easier.
Which leaves us with a final, slightly provocative thought to ponder. If a simple, disposable sheet of paper, something we buy in bulk at the grocery store and throw away without a second thought, holds this much untapped scientific potential just waiting to be unlocked by a slight shift in perspective, what other mundane, everyday items in our homes are secretly multi-tools?
That's a great question.
What else is sitting in our junk drawers or our cabinets right now, just waiting for us to experiment with it and realize we've been underutilizing it this entire time?
It really makes you want to audit your entire kitchen, doesn't it?
It really does. Next time you grab a paper towel, I guarantee you'll think about the structural density of those fibers. Thank you for joining us on this custom deep dive. Keep questioning the ordinary, keep experimenting, and don't forget to kick the tires on the tools you use every single day.